if everyone could download Unity, download this example um, game or whatever you want to call it. Uh, what I did here, I'll just kind of step through this quickly. This project. Uh, what I wanted to do is I wanted to simulate a game that might have, a game's going to have all sorts of different things. You know, we have a million different games we can make. Some of them have, actions where a player dies or a player, maybe the player jumps, maybe there's different levels. So what we have here is, I'll just start this thing quick. Is we have 10 different scenes, and each scene has these different actions in them. And each of these actions has a counter above it. So if I click on, like, go up the stairs, we can count how many times we went up the stairs. Or if we died while sleeping, we can count how many times we died while sleeping. Killed by boss, killed boss, or killed my boss. Or like if the player died with boots on or whatever. So, and also we're going to be noting what scene we're in. So we can if I click next scene, I'm going to the next scene. And as soon as I get to the last scene, the button grays out. So I can, while I'm moving around here, I can have actions on different scenes. So these are all different things that, you can do whatever you want in analytics, which is super great. But these are just some basic examples that we'll set up today, showing how to link your project to the Unity gaming services with the using the analytics module, as well as showing how all the data is accumulated. And then you can once you've accumulated data, you can set up reports if you want. You can do all sorts of different things with that. I feel like that's pretty cool, but like just wiring it up is probably kind of the most important thing, because if you don't have your project wired up, then when somebody starts the game or gets stuck on a level, you're not getting that information. So you have to then interview people in order to find out if they got stuck on things, rather than just putting that into your game and then seeing that, oh, look at, everybody that's, gets to the boss on level 4 or whatever, just, quits right afterwards. So, either they can't, did they kill the boss? No, they didn't kill the boss. Okay, so maybe the boss is too hard, because like, the people that die like 10 times to the boss quit the game, and then they don't play the game again. Because with analytics, you can track when the players start the game, when the players end the game, and their retention. So if like a player comes back or they don't come back, that's all seen inside of the analytics. So anyway, does everyone have this project downloaded? Okay. Um, so with I'm just going to stop this now. So I'll just kind of show how this thing works quick. So basically we have three different panels inside of this canvas. The first panel just has this joke, but it also has, when you start it, it tells you what level or what scene you're in. So it just has a label in it. Kind of the heavy lifting is done by the scene actions UI. Inside of that, we have different actions just listed out here in text. So we have like jump, dodge, go up the stairs, went to the northern corner, just some things that maybe, would happen in your game. Excuse me. And then we just have this action UI prefab, which is right here. And all this is this is a button. It has a label on top. That's the counter with the number that we were looking at. And then some text inside the button. I just made these goofy names and stuff just because, it's a prefab. It's not going to have the text that in it that we're going to see. So if I make the text obvious that, we shouldn't see this text, if we would see it in the game, then I know that, oh, shoot, we didn't set up our serialized field, or maybe there's an error or something going on that we need to take care of. So, I mean, certainly don't have to do this, but it's pretty obvious if if we saw this information in the button that something was wrong. So the script behind here is, um, oh yeah, is just right here, and so we have our TMP text, we have our button, and then we have, so this is the counter, and then this is the action button text. So all that happens is when this script awakes, it assigns a listener to that on-click event of the button. And the on-click event just increments the count. So we just have this private int, that's a count. We also have a private string of click action. And all that is going to be is when we were out here again, looking at our scene actions, that's just going to keep whatever this is. So there's a setup method. When that setup method runs, it passes in that click action that comes from the scene actions list, and it just assigns it to the click action up here. It also assigns the text to the count, which is, the count is going to start off at, it's an int, so it's going to start at 0. So immediately the count's going to show 0. And then we're going to assign our action button text equal to that click action that we're passing in. And then also that variable, like I was just talking about right here. So when the button gets clicked, we run this handle action on click, and we increment the count. Then we assign the count, because when it first is assigned, it's set to 0. So if we would print out what the count was before we incremented it, we would have 0 when we clicked it, which isn't true, right? We clicked it once, so we want to see it. We want to increment it first and then show that. And then I just have this method called do something. And right now this do something is just printing, here we just perform the click action, whatever is assigned to this click action, it's going to print that. So it does that. Now, if we look at the scene actions UI, all this does is this just has our list of actions strings that we pass in, and our action UI prefab, we just iterate through every action. We instantiate that prefab, and then we just run that setup method passing in the action. So that's going to initialize that action UI. So that's really it as far as the code goes. So now let's start wiring this up into Unity. So first things first, you need to be logged in as whatever account you have. And then you can just, if you click on services, or actually I don't think I installed it in here. So let's go to the project settings first. So we brought up our project settings, or not that, I'm sorry, our package manager. So we go into our package manager, In here, we can search for our Unity registry. We can also, this is kind of cool. Let me just close this. If I click services and I do explore, that brings up the package manager, but it brings up just the Unity gaming services, which is pretty cool. So now instead of having to like search around for analytics, I can just look down here and find it. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click the install button right here. So this should just take a couple seconds. Yeah, it's being recorded. Okay, so now that's installed. If I click configure, I believe it's going to open up the website. Oh, it just goes here, which now you can click on go to dashboard. You might have to, under services, you might have to link this to a specific project. I'm actually going to unlink this because this is the one that I just did, and I don't want to. I want to start I want to start fresh. So I'm going to click my organization. I'm going to create a new cloud project. And I just named it 1 because the other one was already linked. And no, this isn't going to be for children. Okay, now I can click on the analytics gaming services, and I can click on go to dashboard. And that brings up my dashboard here. There's a whole bunch of different events that are automatically assigned. So you can see I'm in Unity Cloud. I'm under analytics. It automatically just grabs this event manager. And then I can scroll around. I can see like there's all these different events like game running, game started, new player, notification open, notification services, out of game send. Like there's just a bunch of different things built in directly. These are not enabled, or actually okay. These are all enabled by default, and you can't disable them. But you can create your own events right here, and you can create your own parameters. So an event could just be like made it to level 1 or something, or an event could be found the white tiger or whatever. They can be very generic like that, or you can make them more specific. So first things first, let's go back into Unity. I'm gonna keep this just on the side. We're gonna first wire up an analytics starter, basically. One thing also is because you're recording player data, you need to have an opt-in and an opt-out for your game. Let's see. Yeah, right here. So right here is these are the different calls that you can make. So what we'll do is we're just going to create a new object, and we'll call this analytics manager. And then in that, we're just going to create a new script called analytics manager. Bring this down a little bit. Okay, delete all this junk. And then writer wants me to move it into the namespace that it's in, because right now it's not just under scripts, it's under scripts analytics. So that's where we have our analytics manager. And first things first, we're going to have on awake. We're going to, what you have to do, excuse me, you have to initialize services before you can start your data collection. and the initialized services is asynchronous. What asynchronous means is that it doesn't happen immediately. It it could take like a couple milliseconds, could take like maybe a second, depending on what kind of internet connection you have. And so we can't tell analytics service to start data collection until we've already the initialize async to the Unity services has completed. So all we have to do is we'll just start typing in our Unity services dot initialize async, which is right over here. We're gonna change this thing to be, if you hover over it, your IDE will tell you that it's a task. See how it's a task? A task is always used for asynchronous calls. So we know we need to await that task. And whenever you await something, you need to change your method to be asynchronous. So now I just have my async, I have my await, and now anything after here will only fire after we've been initialized. So now I can do my analytics, no, not manager. I can do my analytics service dot instance dot start data collection, which is what it's saying right here. Excuse me. So what you would have, if this was your game, what you would have is you'd have in the game somewhere in the options, you'd have a way for the user or the player to turn this off. So if they don't want any data collected, then you would run instead of start data collection. Actually, I mean, you could just not run start data collection and then it wouldn't start it. Or you could just automatically have it start, and then maybe there's like an option, like in your pause menu, there's an option in there that says like, hey, do you want to turn off data collection? Like you could say, hey, we're automatically uh, collecting data for this game. If you don't want your data collected, go into the options menu and turn it off. So that's where you would do stop data collection, and that would just stop it, so it wouldn't take any more data. We're just going to leave this on, obviously, and then we're going to come back in here, and we're going to reset that transform, and we're going to add our analytics manager to that. And now, just with what we have so far, of course, there's a delay, but we'll just start this. So we started the game. We don't have, none of these are wired into the game, but we still will be acquiring like a start game. It's kind of cool. Like it'll tell you like what kind of computer connected. It'll tell you obviously the date and time of the server when it connected. It'll have some other information, but it's not going to have any of these because we haven't written any code to do any of this. So I'm just stop this now. So now what we can start doing is we can start creating events. So in here, this is pretty cool. There's a whole bunch of different things. There's stuff about you can it explains billing, where as long as you're under 50,000 users, it's free. Otherwise, you start paying per user. So it looks like it's you know for 36 1,000ths of a cent per user after 50,000. And there's other things in here like let's see, there's audiences. Actually, there's somewhere in here it talks about a little bit more into that because here you can create a custom audience. All right, where's the? Oh, here we go. So I haven't messed with the audiences or anything like that, uh, but you can record like um, you could have different tiers for different players. Like if they spent game or money in your game, if they're if they have ads activated, um, veteran players like players have played more than 100 sessions in their lifetime. So there's a bunch of different things that you can keep track on for your audiences. You can keep tabs on automatically. It'll have like where did my here we go. And yeah, okay. It'll have it'll keep track of like revenue. So if somebody's been purchasing things in your game, it'll keep track of that. It'll have here's your retention. These are all things that are just built in. So when because if you're going to do in-game purchases or whatever, that's going to be through the economy in cloud. So it'll just cross-reference the economy, um, uh, and so it knows who's paying what. The retention is done with the by what we did where we started the acquisition of data. When you start that game, then it'll automatically log in and then it'll record that automatically. And then when you quit the game, it'll automatically record that too. And then it'll every so often it'll say like, yeah, they're still playing. It'll kind of ping and update. These are all things that it does automatically. Like actually we should, because we did start it before, we should be able to go into the event manager now. Yeah, here we go. Or sorry. Yeah, the event browser. So here's where we started the game. And if I open this up, so you can see, I don't know what time zone this is, but it's like 40 minutes to midnight. So, but anyway, if I, this is where you want to see the content. So here's where it just has the user ID. You can see it's the same user ID. It automatically uses the anonymous login for that. We have our event name, so we have game started. If I click on this, it brings up a bunch of data about who logged in. So you can see that I'm running a Mac, says Mac client, has the date and time stamp. This is the version of the program. Because whenever you start a game in Unity, like if I go to my build settings and I click on my player settings right here, every time you start a new game, it says the version's 0.1. So that's what we're seeing there. Um, Here's that event ID, and there's a bunch of other information, project ID. A lot of this stuff you can tie back to, what if you're doing like deployments, you really want to know, okay, well, what exact deployment were they on? Like if you forget to update the version ID, but you've made a deployment, you'll probably be able to map that back. Anyway, um, then what's this one? Client device. Okay. Oh yeah, it just talks a little bit more about the computer itself. Oh wow, it has the RAM and all that. That's cool. I didn't know that. Cool. Okay. So that's nice, but we want to be able to make our own events. So first thing we'll do is we're gonna come into here. We're gonna go into the event manager, and we're going to click on this, click on custom event, and then we're going to look at what we have here. So under our scene actions, see if I can make this so we can read it. Okay, so we have jump, dodge, go upstairs, went to the north corner, blah, blah, blah. Okay. So let's just do an on jump. So this is our on jump event. This is going to be when the player jumps. And we're going to create some new parameters. So this already records client version, platform, user, country, SDK method. But now we can click assign parameter. Those other parameters that we were seeing in here these are events actually, but there's a whole bunch of different parameters like store ID, transaction ID, project ID, item name, a bunch of different things in here. I don't think it has the ones. Yeah, okay, cool. So it's just specific to this project. So all of these things were already default. They exist when you create a new project. So for jumping, we probably want to know like a count. Or sorry, I have to add a new parameter. So we're gonna have a count in here, and it's gonna be like number of times the player used this action. I'm going to make it generic like this because we can assign that parameter to a bunch of different events. We don't have to have it specific to jump. And this is going to be an integer because it's just a counter. I can hit create. And then now in here, when I search for it, I find it. I can click on that. And let's create another parameter. We're going to create the scene name. So now we can store what scene we're in when we're jumping. And this is going to be a string. And again, I need to actually add it. I spelled it wrong. There we go. So now it looks like it just has scene name, so it doesn't have the count. So we'll add that one back. Okay. And there we go. So we have count and we have scene name. We have both of them. This part here is if you had like a test environment and a production environment, you could set something up. Right now, this is linked to our production one, but if this was linked to a test one, I could then copy these into the production environment. But because we only have one environment, it doesn't matter. We can now enable the event right away, which we want to do because otherwise, after I hit confirm here, I would actually have to scroll down here until I found the event and then enable it anyway. So one thing you have to be really careful with this is that everything kind of works like with strings. And so this thing's called onJump. And then when I scroll down, you can see the garbage cans. Those are the ones that we added. So we added count and we added scene name. So if I wanted to add, if I spelled count wrong or with a lowercase c or something like that, I'm going to have to make sure I use that in my object. Otherwise it won't match. Actually, well, let's set that one up quick. We're going to set it up the wrong way so you can see what happens. And then we'll set it up the right way. So now I can go back into my code. So in our action UI, we're going to, first of all, yeah, so let's do this first. So we're gonna, under analytics, we're gonna create a new C# script, and this is gonna be called analytics actions. And in that, we're actually gonna change this just to be a static class. So it's not gonna inherit from monoBehavior. And we can delete these out of here. And we're gonna change this to be a static class. And then of course it wants to move it, the namespace, so we'll let it do that. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna do public static void on jump. And we're going to pass in our count, and we're going to pass in the scene name. So in here, uh, now what we have to do is we actually have to create our event. So if we come back into our Unity docs, we can click on create custom event and scroll down. And right here is an example of a custom event. So we can go back into analytics, create C# script, and we're going to call this our, oh, I can type right on jump event. And this isn't a mono behavior. It's a Unity Services Analytics event. So I'm going to change this to be Unity Services Analytics event. It's going to, we don't want these. It's also going to tell me that, hey, we need to implement missing members. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And that creates a constructor. You can see it's a little bit different. If I were to leave it like this, I'd have to pass in the name of the event. But because we're going to be using the event, I'm just going to pass it in as they have it here. So we're just going to delete this out of here. And then we're just going to change our base class to be the onJump event. And this is where we actually have to match exactly what it's named. So in here, we named it onJump. So here, we're just going to call it onJump. So in our program in Unity, it'll be called onJump event, but it'll actually be, onJump is what we have in our analytics. And now we can start adding, we wanted both the count and we wanted the scene name. Does anyone have any questions so far? I guess I should probably ask that. All right, so we're going to do public, and a count is going to be an int. So here's our count. And then this, again, this name can be whatever. I would just probably name it the same to be consistent. All right, awesome. No questions. Oops. But what really matters is when you do the set. Okay, I guess it's going to do that. When you do set, and then I do my set parameter, and then the text in here has to match. So if I would not type onJump exactly like that, like if I did a lowercase o or something like that, it wouldn't work. And actually, let's do that. So we're going to do, or parameter's not onJump, it's count, right? So let's do lowercase count. And then we need our value. And what is this? This is so funny because it adds this, but then if I change this, actually there. Oh. Hmm. I think we're good. I think that's exactly how it is. So um, let me just check my other thing here just for a second. Oops. I guess I just used the arrow. So it basically writers wants the expression like that. Oh, I need another. There we go. Okay. Anyway, so the expression works. I'm not sure why I was complaining about that, but and then now we can add our scene name. And this is a string this time. And then in here, we'll name this one correctly. So we have one named slightly wrong and then one named correct. And then it wants to move it, so we'll let it move it. Okay. It might have needed another bracket. We could try this one to see if we can. Oops, I don't think it did, but oh yeah, it might have been from that original one. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, there's two of them there. Let's just paste one next to it. I hate when it formats it when you don't necessarily want it to. Like, come on. All right, let's see what the difference is. Yeah, it's complaining about the one they have too. I think it's not even. This isn't like a complaint. This is just it's a suggestion. So you can. We'll leave that one like that. And I think either of them will be fine. This one's probably determined to be a little bit more readable, so they're suggesting you use it, but you don't need to. So let's save that. So we have our on jump event, and we're using count, and then we're using scene name, and we're intentionally spelling this with a lowercase c, so then it'll error out. But now we can go back into our, okay, let's go to our actions. And in here, what we're going to do is we're going to be count and scene name or past tense. This is going to be our on jump. And that's going to be a new on jump event. And in here, I'm just going to pass in our count equals count, our scene name equals scene name. What was that other thing it said? That was weird. That said three things. Okay. And then now we can go back here just for a split second. And it tells you how to record event. So this is what we just did. And then all we have to do is do the analytics service.instance.record event. And then we just pass in our event. We can just do this too. So if the event doesn't have any data in it, like if we just wanted to record that a player got to a specific location and we didn't care, like we know that one location is only, maybe you don't have any levels in the game. Like right now we're working on a card game, so we have rounds but we don't have levels. So maybe, we just want to know when the player got a specific card or something, and then we just want to the card event is going to be just a specific card event and there's nothing else that we need to record. Then I can just pass in the name of the event and it'll just record it, because remember, it always has that other information with it. So we have the all of this. So we're going to have here are the parameters, the standard ones. If we click on our jump one again, so in here we're going to always have the timestamp, the user ID, session ID, event name, event UUID, and then client version. So we're going to keep, if you have like 5 different versions of the app or whatever, automatically it's going to save which version they're using. So you can, if you had, maybe there was a breaking bug that you had in, version 8 or whatever, but now you're on version 12 or something, and they just haven't updated yet. And you see that, oh, they got that bug again or whatever. Because you can use these things to, you could put events in that you are hoping you'll never hit, like, okay, well, because you can have an event where, let's say if you have a role-playing game and you just monitor your player's health and you're looking to make sure that the health is never less than 0. So if you have a negative number, there's a bug, there's something wrong, because you should never have a negative number or whatever. You could do an event for that. Anyway, so We just created our event, and now we just need to do our analytics service dot instance dot start event, or is it something event? Record event. And now we just pass in on jump. So this is all wired up. Now we just need to go into our action UI, and what we'll do in here is we're just going to create a select case on the click action, or a switch, I mean. So our click action will be in here, and the first one we're going to put in here is where case is on jump, and we're going to do the analytics actions on jump, and we're going to pass in, oh yeah, our count. And I don't think I set up the scene manager, so what we'd also do is we'd create a private string, and here's the scene name. And right when this loads, we're going to take the scene name from the manager where we do our get active scene, and we're just going to return the name. So right when this thing loads, right when the program loads, or actually it's right when the action UI loads, right when we're, each one of these, remember these are all different actions, so each of them are going to get instantiated and added. And when they get instantiated, they're going to grab that scene name and store it right here. And so then we can just pass that scene name in here. And I'll just throw a default in here because, or we just break. Oh, I need my break too. Come on, back up. There we go. Okay. So when our on jump happens, when our button gets clicked, we're going to run this on jump, which just creates that on jump event and then records it. So let's go back into here. And the nice thing about this actions thing is because it's just a class, it's not a mono behavior. I don't have to attach it to anything. And because what we did is we created it as a static class. We're just having it fire this. We're not actually having it return anything, or, we don't need to create any variables up here, so we can keep it static. So now let's start this thing up, and I'm just going to put a breakpoint in here, and then I'm going to hook this up. If this is like, I don't know if you guys use this. I know some people don't use it, and this makes it like 1,000 times easier to figure out what's going on if you use breakpoints in your IDE. So, and you can do it in Visual Studio Code, or Writer, or whatever you're using. Unless you're using Notepad, you can in there. Okay, so we'll go back into here. And now, so Dodge doesn't have it. So if I click Dodge, it just records it in text, but it's not going to actually send that to Unity Gaming Services. But now if I click Jump, oh, hold on a second. Let's see what I did wrong here. Okay. Action UI. On jump, is that what it's named? I don't think it's named that. So, okay. So I'm going to show you naming it wrong in the Unity Gaming Services, but we just went through naming it wrong here in the app. So if we go back into our scene actions, we're just looking for jump. We're not looking for on jump. So that means that, that means in the script here, this will never happen. We need to change that to that. This is fine to be called on jump because it's a method, but this is what we're looking at. And actually, if we look at the, did it just clear it? Let's see. Yeah, it just cleared it. But if I hadn't cleared it, we would see that it would say, here we just performed the jump action, is what it would have said. And we were looking for on jump. Okay. So now let's go back in here, run it again, click on our jump button. Okay. So our jump button went right into our breakpoint. We have here's our event created. So we have our on jump method. Um, and we have our scene name, which is scene 1. We have our count, which is 1. And now we're just going to run this record event. It doesn't return anything. It's a void. So we're not getting anything back. It just sends the data. So let's go ahead and stop this and we'll wire up a couple other ones. We'll do, well, we have to wait a little bit anyway, because if we come in here right away and we go to the event browser, it's going to show up here because we named the count wrong, but it's not here yet. It does take, even though the data got sent, it seems to take like, I don't know, like 2 or 3 minutes or something for it to finally show up in here. So while we're doing that, what we're going to do is we're going to create a couple more actions. So we have our on jump event. I'm going to duplicate that, and I'm going to make one called on location. And then I have to change the name of this. So I'm going to do, in most IDEs allow you to just do a rename. What's great about a rename, like right now, we can see it's named on jump here, and it's also on jump here. If I right click on this and I change this to, oops, if I go to refactor, rename, I can change this to on location event. And when I hit next, it changed it both here and there. And if this was used in like 50 other places, it would change it in all 50 other places too. So that can be really helpful. Okay, so I'm actually gonna do this just to make it take up less space. And what we're gonna do is in our scene actions, we have go up the stairs, we have, I thought there was a go down the stairs. Maybe not. And then we have went to the north corner, went to the south corner, interacted with hidden cave. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna create a bunch of parameters. So we'll have like, whoops. So instead of scene name, we're gonna have like, let's do, went north, and that's gonna be a Boolean. And then we're gonna have went south, and then we're gonna have picked up, let's do hidden cave treasure. Maybe you get a treasure, a specific item from the hidden cave or something. Gotta make sure I copy and paste the proper names in here. And we can go ahead and change this one now. So we have a couple different things. So what we're going to do is we're actually going to create one event for, oh yeah, I can add the stairs in here too. So we're going to create one event for going up the stairs. The same event we're going to use for went to the north corner. Same event we're going to use to went to the south corner, and then same event for interacted with hidden cave. So I'm going to add one more in here quick. And this is going to be went up the stairs. Okay. All right, now we need to come back in here, and I bet you if we refresh now, our broken one's going to be in here. There it is. So if I hover over this, it says incoming event contains unexpected key count, generating value of 1. So what that means is each of these are like a little dictionary. So this is the key, and then this is the value. So the key we sent was the lowercase c for count, and then it was 1. So if we come back in here, that's what our count is, the key, and then our value is 1. If I click on this, it tells me what we sent. So you can see we sent this, and that should be uppercase. And you can verify that by going back. You're seeing that we're calling the on jump event. So again, this is what we sent. And then we can go back into valid events, or sorry, event manager. And then we can click on our event, our on jump event right here. And when that opens up, we can see, oh, it's a capital C instead of a lowercase c. That was the problem. You could delete it if you wanted and then add a lowercase 1, or you can go back into your method, your event, and change it there. So then that's what we did. So now we need to make our on location event. So we're going to do another event, and we're going to do on on location, and this is going to be like this will hold information on where the player got to in the map, or in each level. And now we can assign some parameters again. We can automatically add our count again. We can automatically add our scene name because we probably want both of those. And now we can add new ones, which are going to have to match these. So I'm going to move this over here. So we'll add a new one. We're going to add our went up the stairs, which is a Boolean. So this is like, when you don't have to type all this stuff out either, but I would say as it is with anything, if you are ever either A, going to take a break from your game, or B, get other people to help work on your game, I would go that extra distance of filling everything out, just because when you come back to it, if you have the more the more things that are filled out that you can reread and understand, the easier it's going to be to start working on it again. All right, so we added that one. Excuse me. We need our went north and our went south. And that would be a Boolean. And then finally, we have our hidden cave treasure. So we're going to make that a string. And ideally, we would whatever item they pick up or something, we could just pass that in. And now I need to add all of them. So we have went up the stairs, went north, and then we have hidden cave treasure, and then just see if count is still in here. Nope. count, and then scene view name. All right, so now we got them all in there. Yep. And now I can enable that event right away. Hit confirm. We can view it if we want, and we can see that just by the trash cans, we can see that we have, 6 different custom things are added in here. And now we can go back into our code and verify there's 6, which there are. Everything looks good. Now we can go back into our analytics actions, and we can create a new static method in here. Oops, called on location. And this one we're going to pass in a string for, so this actually we can do, what we're actually going to do is we're going to have our up the stairs, the north corner, south corner. So we can do, there's a bunch of different ways we can do it. We could either have like a different method for each of those, or we could pass in like some, parameters and then have the method figure out what to do. Like for instance, we could do, for a Boolean, we could say, like is north. Oh, let's see. Yeah, so we'll have on location corner. So that one, we're going to have either it's going to be north or it's going to be south, or they wouldn't fire this event. So then we need to have we're not going to do a count for a corner. We could, actually, I guess, let's see, let's not do it. So we're not going to do the count, but we will do the scene. So if they're in the north corner of the third map or the first map or whatever, so we'll put in our scene name. And then now we have our on location. Oops. Event. And then in here, we're not doing our hidden cave treasure. We're not doing count. We are doing scene names. We can add that. And then we are doing, so we have went north and we have south. So we're just going to add both of these. And for this, we're going to say like went north is north. So that's true. Went south, and that's not is north. So just the way that we have this set up, we're either going north or we're going south if we're calling this. If we're going east or we're going west, we wouldn't be calling this right now. And then now we can just copy this. I'm switching between Windows and Mac, and I always like screw up the copy. Oop. And now we can do our on location. All right. Now this we're going to use in our action UI, and that's only going to be for it's only going to be for I'm just going to copy and paste because I hate it. That's one thing I really don't like using strings. Like a lot of the time what I'll do is I'll create constants. I'm just always nervous that I'm just going to have a typo in a string because I've done it 1,000 times or more. Actually, okay, so I'm just going to come over here, I'm going to copy that, and then I'm going to go back into here, and I'm just going to paste that. So now we know that if I had like 2 spaces here, it won't work. Like that's always the pain with strings, is like there can be invisible characters or something that you didn't notice you did, and now everything is messed up. So because it's the north corner, we're going to send true for the first thing, because that's is north. Now the next thing is the scene name, so we can just put in our scene name. Now the next one we want to do in here is going to be the south corner. So we'll come in here, copy this, go back, paste that in there. And now we're going to change this to false because it's south. And then we can do the hidden treasure one. We can go this way this time. So a lot of the IDEs are kind of cool because you can do something like this. So we have our interacted with hidden cave, and I'm going to create a new thing called on location cave item. And I'm not going to pass in a false. I'm going to pass in the fire sword. Oops. Passing in fire sword. I'm going to pass in scene name, and I'm going to pass in, I think that's it. Yeah. Okay. And now I can put my cursor in here. I can click over here and it'll say, okay, do you want to create a method under analytics actions on location cave item? And yeah, I do. So it automatically, it named it fire sword. Scene name is correct. We're going to change this to just be item. And then now we can create our on location item. Oops. Get our new event in here. Our scene name is going to be scene name again. We're not using went north or went south. We're not using count. We're not. Oh, we're not. I don't know. So length is. Oh, that's just the length of the count. That's funny that it listed that before, and then when I put count in there, then it went away. That was weird. Okay. And all we have left is just the hidden cave treasure, and that's going to be the item. Actually, let's call this item name, and then change it here. And then now again, we're going to do analytics service.instance, record event. And then pass our location item in there. And now, so we have our jump fixed, and we have our corners, and we have our cave item. Let's add the one last one we have. Let's do the other way again. That's kind of fun doing that way. Oh yeah, I forgot my break statements. Oops. The break kicks you out of the loop of the switch. Otherwise, if you don't have a break, it would just go to the next case. And you can actually double up. Like if you wanted to run, if you had like 5 different cases where you wanted to run the same thing, you can just list them all right here. Instead of, they don't have to have their own one and then just have the same code. They can just be listed multiple. You can have like 5 right here and then just have one action, and it'll just run that one action for all 5 of them. And the default's nice, like especially like you could put in here like print like, I forgot to wire up the action. And if I put a $sign here, I can use inline string, which is awesome. And I can put my click action. So if this gets run, I forgot to wire it up. So we can run it right now. And if we click on the stairs one, we'll see that print. So we start this up. Oh, and we click on go upstairs. And you can see I forgot to wire up action, go upstairs. All right. So now we're going to do the go up the stairs. So again, I'm just going to go over here and I'm going to copy it so I don't get a typo. If any of you watch Code Monkey um, on YouTube, you'll hear him complain all the time about strings because it's so easy just to mess them up. Okay, so we have on, go upstairs. And for go up the stairs, um, I guess, so I think what I was thinking is there'd be a down the stairs, but yeah, we'll pass in true, I guess. And we don't need to. Let's see. We want scene name for sure. We could do count, I guess. How many times we went up the stairs. And then I think that's all we want. And now we'll let this generate it again. Oh, and we need a break. Before I forget that. Put this in here. All right. And now let's start our new one again. And our scene name, we're passing that in there. Oh yeah, no underscore. And then our count. And that's it. Oh yeah. And the actual thing we care about, which is going up the stairs. Went upstairs. So that's just going to be true. Because we're only calling this when we go up the stairs, so we don't need to pass in a true or a false, because it's always going to be true. And this should be lowercase o. Now we can run this again. Oop. All right. And now let's see if we get any errors. Start this up. Let's skip to scene number 5. We're gonna go to the north corner twice. We'll go to each place like twice. Interacted with the hidden cave twice, went up the stairs twice. Then we're gonna go to the last scene, scene 10, and we'll go up. We'll just do these two like 3 times. And then we're gonna quit. So once this catches up, this should have the last one we have in here now. So if we go to our event manager, or not event manager, event browser, sorry. So we can see we had the game started and the game ended. It looks like the game started, might be just now. So if we refresh this, I wonder if we'll have a couple other ones in here. No, not yet. See if any more invalid ones. Nope. All right, so it's still loading here. Let me just grab some water. Does anyone have any questions yet? Okay. While we're waiting for this to pop in here. So some of these things are pretty cool. Like you can set up custom dashboards. So let's say we wanted to, and then you can create reports. It did say something about like when I hit add in here, it did say that SQL Data Explorer reports incur a cost per run based on query seconds. So like basically what that means is if there's a lot of data and the query takes a couple seconds, then it's going to cost, there's going to be some cost to it. But that being said, you can create a, so you can do a data explorer report, a funnel report, or SQL data explorer report, which is what that was talking about. You can create a new funnel report, and funnel reports are pretty cool. So you can create these funnels where you're grouping data. You're creating like a data set that you care about. So let's say you want to like a data set you might want would be like like how many times did a player die before they when they were fighting this boss, and then they quit or something. So we go add a funnel, and you can select different steps, and you can add more, but it starts off with 2 steps. So in here, um, we can do like, let's do the on jump, and then you can add a parameter for that. So we can say like, okay, we're gonna do the count, how many, and we can say, okay, the jump. Let's say like this is a platform game or something, and we want to know like maybe they jump more than like greater than like 20 times or something. And then the location we're looking at is in the hidden cave treasure map, or we could say like when they're in the north side of the map or something. And let's just do that. And this is going to be equal to, you can either say true or false, because that's what this is it's a boolean. And now I can apply that. So right now it doesn't have any things in here, because if we go back to our event browser, let's see if it has our new stuff in here. Okay, here we go. We have our on locations are in here. So if we open up that, we can see on scene 5, we didn't go north, but we did go south. Um, and the event names on location, uh, and it's that's what information that we're recording for that. Um, Here's a couple other ones from before, and then another on location. So this is the fire sword. So in scene 5, we did the hidden cave treasure. So we got the fire sword, and then it tells us the date. But with this, we're able to group different data together, to see like, okay, I know what scene we're on. I know that we got the hidden, or the fire sword. I could also, like, we didn't pass, if you noticed, we didn't pass the north, south, or anything like that in those, so it didn't keep it. And same thing with the one up the stairs. So like, if what I mean by that is, in here, if you don't add something into your event that exists in your event, it doesn't just automatically record it as like false or 0 or something. It just doesn't record it at all. So it just, which is great, because that means that when you set up these events, you can just pass in exactly what you care about. So if you can pass everything if you want, but if the player can never go up the stairs, like there's no stairs on the northern side of the map, then if you're doing this, like, if you're grouping this on location event, then you wouldn't need to have, you would never have the north being set to true, and the player going up the stairs. So you can just keep those independent. You can not have to put them into the um, same call here. Um, so let's go back in here. Let's see if our funnel has anything yet. Oh shoot, I didn't save it. Oops. All right, do this quickly. So it was on jump, and we were doing a count. We have our scene name in there too. Oh yeah, I probably didn't do 10. I forgot what I was. Let's just say greater than 2, and then on location, and we'll add. Can't remember if we clicked on that one or not. Say it went up the stairs. It's true. All right. Let's save this. Oops. And this is going to be, I don't need to exclude spaces. We'll just name it the same thing for now. Okay, so we're when the jump is greater than 2, and then when the going up the stairs is equal to true. Or did I say true? When the jump is greater than 2. Okay. So now let's come back in here and we're gonna, on a couple different levels, we're gonna jump and we're gonna go up the stairs. So in scene 3, we're gonna jump and go up the stairs. And on 5, same deal. And the last scene, I guess. That's like bummer when you're testing this is, but I mean, typically your game isn't just a couple buttons that you click on and then you can go to see if anything worked or whatever. Your game's actually going to take a little bit to start up and then, you're going to actually, it's going to do something. Oh yeah. And then I'm just going to stop. And where to go? Here we go. It's still not in there yet, but we can go back into our event browser, see where we're at. Okay. One up the stairs is true, count of 3. I wish it had like, it probably has it somewhere, but let's see. It'd be cool if it had, yeah, it'd be cool if it had like the time, the date and the time of the server because like, this is not, this is not my date and time. I mean, it's my date, but it's not my time. So I don't think we have any more invalid, just that first one. Cool. And there should be a jump in here too, though. I don't see it. Wait, I don't see any on jump, do I? Yeah, let's take a look at that once. Okay. I still have that name wrong. There. Well, that should be airing out then, because on jump exists in there. Oop, wrong one. Yeah, it's spelled right. Okay. I wonder if this is just, what time is this? Seems like it would be later than that, because this is 22:19. I would have expected, because that's what we were clicking the jump button too. All right, well, let's try it again and see if it works. Okay, that's all good. Ah, I'll wait for that for a little bit. Anyway, so in here, yeah, these are the automatic events. The game started. I don't know why it's like scrunching this down. So weird. Even if I make this like big, it was still scrunched. But we have our game started, our client device, new player, game running, game ended. Um, and I don't know, you can set up a custom user ID. Um, you can also like if you're not using um, anonymous login, you can like you can keep tabs on exactly who is doing that specific ID itself instead of just anonymous. Oh yeah, this so when you start getting into like the um anytime it talks about APIs and stuff, it's talking about not using Unity, but because you can use Unity gaming services for Unreal or for Godot, you can use all these things in both of those. You just have to, instead of it being built in, where, in here, all we have to do is, type analytics service and it brings in that library because we installed it in the package manager. Um, it's a little bit it's a little bit more than that for Unreal and stuff, but it's not. It's still basically you end up creating like a URL. Like if you've ever used REST services, you use a URL and then you would pass in that event object is what you would be like. It's probably like a post or something. So you're sending that data through the web basically to Unity gaming services, and then it can store it there. Um, and you can like this is kind of cool. Like if you do ads, you can record the ad impression events. So like if somebody's like trying to get out of the ad immediately, or if they sat there and they watched the whole thing, or if they clicked on it, or maybe they hovered over it and didn't quite click on it, a lot of that information can be recorded. Um, yeah, we were in the. Yeah, I didn't do a dashboard. Let's see where this is at now. Refresh this. Here we go. We got our on jump finally. So it must have just been thrown it in the invalid. Yeah, there we go. So what do we have here? Yeah, because of the lowercase c. That's so weird though, because like we had done that earlier, and now they're showing up here because we changed it to an uppercase C. So here we got a count of 10. Now we can go into our funnels and we can click on our jumping and going up the stairs. Still not showing anything. Let's see. I wonder if like went up the stairs. Oh, isn't that going to be? I think actually it's recording like a 0 and a 1, isn't it? Let's go back to the browser once. So if we click on location, yeah, it's a 1. So so it's even though it's a boolean, it's gonna work on a 1 or a 0 because it's JSON. So let's go back to our funnel. We'll change this from true to 1. See what happens. There we go. So 100%. We had a completion rate of 100% of games where they jumped and they were going up the stairs. So, but you can see where this would be like super helpful if you're curious of like, okay, does anyone ever get that one item and then kill the boss with that, maybe the flaming sword or whatever, right? You can keep tabs on that. You can keep tabs on the sword itself, and then you can keep tabs on, who killed the boss, and then you can use the funnel to cross-reference those two things together. So then okay, you could also like one thing that we were using this for until somehow I accidentally deleted the event, so I gotta add it back. But in our game, like you have different, each player can pick a different colored crow, and so we were saving what color they were selecting, and then also it would automatically select uh, it would automatically select a random category for them, and it would save that too. Um, System Crash asks, would this be helpful for anti-cheat stuff? Yeah, I think so. I mean, you could pass in like things that you could totally set up a funnel for things that should never happen in a game. So that might be either because they're cheating or because they're exploiting like a bug that you have, So you could easily put in, things that okay, they should never have more than this, or they should never be able to, do this or something, and then cross-reference those two things. Maybe there's a choice in the game where they always have to choose one of the two things. So you could put this funnel looking for those two things at once and making sure that nobody ever gets that. Then in here, you also have these dashboards. So you can check out a bunch of different, like how many people are in there, daily active users, monthly users, there's different sessions. So like if you see a ton of different sessions, for the the DAU is the daily active user. That means maybe like if you would look at them, maybe they're like, they play it a little bit in the morning, they play a little bit at night or whatever. Or maybe um, they shouldn't have all that many different sessions. Like usually you want them to play the game for like an hour and then be done. So this would give you an idea of like, okay, well, how many times are they going in there? Like if you see somebody going in there like a whole ton of times, and it's more of like a role-playing game where it doesn't make sense to play it for 2 minutes or something, then maybe that means that the game's crashing. Maybe that means that there's some service that you're relying on isn't working or is down or something. And so, by monitoring a lot of these things, you can find issues that might be coming up, or prevent them from happening. And what I would recommend is like really, it's definitely using this for your testing, like right when you spin up a new project, throwing a lot of this stuff in there and updating it, just so you can tell like, okay, you know especially like, actually a great example. So our game is multiplayer, and it's a netcode for game objects. And what we've seen is that, and we didn't know this right away, but when we were using it in the WebGL build, and things were working pretty well. I think we had one person where if they didn't host, then their game would crash, or actually it was just really weird. Anyway, but once they hosted, it was fine. And then we did our alpha, and it, like, almost nobody could get it to work. Same build, like everything the same. So if we were, if we had wired this in right away, we could have, thrown it up on itch and then just seen a bunch of people playing it, and then got feedback directly to see like, oh, there's things that aren't working, and then immediately, start looking into those things. Because, you know, if you don't know there's a bug in your game, then you don't know to fix it, right? I mean, you only know what you know, and this is just another way of, instead of somebody just quitting a game and being oh, this thing is a piece of junk, I'm not playing it anymore. You get that information, and then you're like, oh, dang, like, nobody was telling me that it was crashing at level 2, nobody's ever gotten to level 3. Like, if I hadn't had this, maybe I never would find out about that. And so a bunch of users find out or a bunch of players find out because they play it and they don't take the time to give any feedback. They're just like, oh, this thing, it's obviously not done or whatever. It keeps crashing. So now you can accumulate that data yourself and not have to worry about someone taking the time to, let you know when something isn't working properly. Or, you know, the other thing is like there's when somebody plays your game, and even you might think that it should work a certain way, but it isn't actually working that way. And somebody who's playing your game, like they don't know your intention. Maybe your intention is that the player only has one life, and as soon as they die, they have to start over. But your intention is no, they actually have 10 lives or whatever, but you have a bug in there. And so it just, after one life, they have to start all over again. This could easily help you find that out because a player is not going to necessarily tell you like, oh yeah, I died and then I had to start over again, because maybe they're like, oh well, that's how the game is supposed to work, so they're not even going to tell you that. But I think that's all I have. Does anyone have any more questions about anything? Oh, that's right, you guys can you unmute yourself, or I don't remember if that works in here. Yeah, I think the recordings are going to be uploaded to YouTube, right, Salem?
Yeah, they'll be uploaded to YouTube. Also, you guys can unmute in this channel because we're not on the stage.
Uh, yeah, I don't have any questions for now, but later, when I'm working a little more intensive with the Unity, I'm assuming if I do run into questions, could I like hit you up for a quick DM?
Yeah, sure, no problem.
Well, I appreciate it so much. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I hope you got something out of it. Thanks for coming.
Yeah, yeah. I've been taking some notes here, so
Great.
always very helpful to fill out the notebooks.
Right.
Yeah, this is
Yeah,
really
there's
informative.
a lot of good stuff in the sometimes what I've found is um like the APIs, like the Unity documentation, like it's usually really good, but sometimes it's hard to figure out how to get started, because you
Hmm.
have just text listing what you're supposed to be doing, and then other things have just videos, so it can be hard to kind of bounce back and forth and find exactly where you need to wire something up. So, um, but I feel like a combination of the two works out pretty well. And there's a ton of different things in here. I'm still not exactly sure about the audiences. I haven't used them, but you can like create your own and stuff. So I don't know.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, no problem.
Thank you.
No problem.
Thank you so much for the lecture, Julian. That was really informative. I really enjoyed that.
Awesome. Thanks. No problem.
Yeah.
Thanks for recording it and hanging out.
Yeah, no problem. Let me actually let me stop the recording before anything.
Yeah.